and glad to be working with our team from Central Data Systems today to provide you with this overview. Before we go into the live application, let me just take a few minutes to give you a big picture overview of the service module. Now, this page summarizes the features of the service module, and as you can see, this is truly a robust service application. Now, we won't have enough time to cover all the details of this slide today, but let's touch on a few highlights. Built into this service application is a dedicated CRM function for service-related opportunities and projects. Now, to be clear, this function is only applicable for the service-related opportunities within the service module. It will not work with the distribution side of the operation. Now, this is useful for operations where you track leads, opportunities, and business pipelines, and where you bid against competitors to win large projects. When you win these deals, the quotes can then be converted into work orders in the service module. The work order management features of the service module is where you build and track work orders. It can start with a quote. You can then convert that quote into formal work order for the services the customers are asking for. It could be for service and repair, it could be preventive maintenance, or it could be project management. Billing could be time and material, could be fixed, or milestone billing. There is a scheduling and dispatching tool within the application that will help service managers assign and schedule tasks to technicians. And we'll see a little bit of that today. Now, this application will also support operating service centers where customers ship or drop off equipment for servicing. They can pick up the equipment when ready, or you can then ship the equipment back to the customer when the service is complete. The application also provides the functionality to support technicians who are dispatched to customer sites to perform the equipment services in the field. Now, there are special tools that technicians can use to access the work orders, update the time and parts used for the service. It could be through a workstation at the service center or a mobile app that could be downloaded from the App Store or Google Play, depending on the devices that your technicians carry. The system will track equipment still under warranty from the manufacturers, or you can set up your own warranty coverage within the application that you can offer to your customers. And then finally, the application comes with a built-in rental module. The application allows you to manage formal rental agreements for equipment that you make available for your customers for rent. The rental charges are configurable and can be based on meter or mileage usage, or could be time-based. All right, so that gives you a quick look at what the service management module can do for you. Again, this application is integrated with the CloudSuite Distribution ERP system, also known as SX Enterprise. Let's go into the live application. I've logged into the application using my Chrome web browser. Now, this is a cloud-based application, and what that means is that you can log into the service module from any device that has access to the internet. We're looking at the calendar scheduling screen. Now, this is where the service manager, the service coordinator, or even a customer service rep can take a look at work orders assigned to technicians in a service group. Now, you can group your service teams based on the groups that you have, and it could be by branch, it could be by region, it could be by product line, or even a service that you provide. Now, in this screen here, for example, I have technicians in this group. I have Barney, Gary, Phil, Sally, and Scott in this weekly view, and you see the daily columns displayed on the screen. And under each column for the technician, you can see the work assigned to each of those technicians. As I hover the cursor over that block of work order, you can see a summary of the work order assigned to the technician, what the problem was about, whether the technician is working on it, maybe the status of it, information on the customer, information on the contact that the customer has that we need to be able to contact just in case. If you look to the left side of the screen, you can see the time slots in this calendar screen. So you can actually see the actual times allotted and allow you to be able to see the assignment to each technician in the calendar. I could go in here as well, and I can even do a right click as a service manager. I can view the appointment, I can view the work order, I can copy this appointment, I can even change the status, even add material, labor, and miscellaneous charges if that was appropriate. I can even add additional technicians to the work order if needed. So even though the work order is assigned to the technician, the service manager and the service coordinators in the back office still has access to the work order and could intervene when necessary. Now, this is a weekly view of the calendar, but I also have other views. I can have a daily, a monthly view of the calendar. So if I click on the month, for example, I can then see the scheduled tasks for the month of March. I can go forward in time and take a look at the schedule for the month of April. If you'll notice, the color schemes reflect the status of the work order. The orange color in this demo environment is showing orange, and that would mean a new order. As we look at the past, we can see the status of the collars change to show the actual status of those work orders. We can go into a timeline week view, and this time the information that we're looking at would be the work orders assigned to the technicians on a weekly timeline view, with the technicians on the left panel and the work orders assigned to them looking at in the middle of the screen. I do like the partners week view because this gives us information on the work orders that are assigned for this week, along with the time slots on a 24-hour clock, so we can see who's working overtime, who's working on weekends, and who's working late during the day. At the bottom of the screen, you can see under the To Be Scheduled tab, and these are the dozens and perhaps even hundreds, excuse me, of work orders that are waiting to be assigned to technicians. For a service manager, for example, I do have control of this calendar scheduling screen. If Sally, for example, calls in today and tells me that she won't be able to come in tomorrow, I could go and take a look at the schedule that Sally has on her calendar, and I can see that Scott is available. I can simply click and drag that work order over to Scott. By clicking and dragging, that information on the work order will now be assigned to Scott. It'll pick up his rate if that was different from Sally's, and allow Scott now to be able to access that work order on his mobile device or at the workstation. Going to the activities on the left side of the screen, you'll notice that when I pull down that tab, it will now give me the opportunity to add a single day appointment. I can add a multi-day appointment. I can dispatch partners or technicians, or create an SRO or a service request order or an incident. An incident is a ticket that could be entered into the system for any reason related to either customer calls or even internal issues. It could then, of course, create a service request order, but not necessarily needed if it was not needed. In this case, when I create an incident into the system, it opens up the work order entry program and allows me now to log into the incident creation screen. On the top left, you can see here where, for example, a customer service person could be able to log in and enter the order. So I could find my profile. In the middle right of the screen, you can see where you can now add the customer information. I could pull down the information here and look for the appropriate customer who's on the phone asking for service. When I do that, the information defaults then on that customer, shipped to information that may be appropriate. I can also pull down the contact information and identify the person, for example, who would be calling, and add that to the screen here. I could also change if the information, for example, was related to a different ship to. I could go ahead and do that, and also now look at different information related to this customer. I could also now go ahead and let's go ahead and change this. And let's go ahead and add another customer here. Sorry about that. Needed to get another ship to here so that we can look at those already added in this demo environment. All right, so here now I can go ahead and take a look at this customer, and then of course be able to then identify information on the units that are going to be reflected in the screen here. Apologize for this. There you go. Let me back up here for a second and change the customer and the ship to that we're looking at. All right. Let me back out of this for a second and start over again. All right. All right. So here's the contact that I wanted to work with. It's Doc Lewis on the phone. I have his contact information. And when I go to the left panel on the screen, I can now take a look at the units of the equipment that Doc is asking service for. I can scroll down and take a look at all the equipment that we know that this customer owns that we also service. And if Doc is calling about a specific item, for example, I can bring it up on screen. I can see the serial number. And then, of course, now we can find out what Doc is asking service for. And he's complaining about a leak in the equipment when running. And of course, the service coordinator or the customer service person can get as much information as talking to the customer and being able to find out the problem with the equipment that the customer is asking for. All right. And of course, you can continue to add additional information in as necessary. And you can also go into the reason codes and tap on some similar issues that you may have encountered in the past. In this case, if there are some issues that may have been common and perhaps the resolutions would have also been similar, then you can leverage those resolutions and then, of course, fix the problem for that customer. And what does the customer want us to do? Well, the customer wants us to come to the on-site and go ahead and fix what the problem is. So in this case, I could now create the service request order, click OK. The incident will be created in the system for us to be able to track, and then also now allow me to be able to create this service order in the system. I could add additional notes to it. I can take a look at the information again, click OK, and once that order is created into the system, it'll now go ahead and add that into the scheduling calendar. The system will take me back into the scheduling calendar now. And if I look at the bottom of the screen here, as I refresh it, you can now see the information that will be related to the order that was created, and then of course be able to bring it out into the system. What I can do now as a service manager is when the time is right, I can go ahead and click on any of the work orders that are available in the system, and then of course be able to assign that to a technician in the calendar. So when I do that, I can simply go ahead and click on the work order, find a technician who's available, and also assign it now to that technician. The work order will be opened. I can add additional notes to it, click OK, and now that technician will have access to that work order in his mobile device or in the workstation. Let me go ahead and share with you my mobile device here to see what the technician would be able to see when they log into the system. I do apologize in advance if we do get any live messages that go through, because this is a live phone. So I'm going to share my mobile device here in a second, and there it is. So I will log into my mobile app here and then be able to share with you the information. I'll log into the mobile app here as Barney, the technician, and use my password to log in to the mobile device. And here, for example, now I see the queue for today. I can see the assignment of that task that I just added a few seconds ago. I can also go into the rest of the tasks assigned to me in time over the next few weeks and so on. I can also go into my menu here and be able to take a look at information that would be appropriate for what I was looking for. A new customer, for example, or even go ahead and create a new service order if that was necessary. If I go back to today's work queue, I can tap into the work order that was assigned to me. And then, of course, I can look at the equipment. At the top, I can see the work order number. I can see information on the problem that was described by the customer. And then, of course, I can see the customer information. When I tap on the customer name, it provides me information coming from the back office on all of the service orders and appointments that we've had with this customer over time. I can see appointments by simply tabbing or tapping into that. Perhaps some of the newer and most latest work orders, I can tap on the contacts and see the details of the people that we deal with with this customer. When I tap on the units, I can see they have 24 units of equipment that we service for them. We keep track of all the history of each equipment. We know that this item or this equipment at the top was installed back in March of 2019. I can see that there's no warranty active or contract active. I can continue to then, of course, go ahead and review the equipment that this customer have. I can review other service contracts that we started working in the past, going back to March of 2020, and then, of course, review those if they could help me with the task that I'm working on today. Going back into the work order now, I can see the address for the customer. So if I'm traveling to the customer site, I can simply tap on the address. It actually triggers up the GPS app on my mobile phone and give me direction to get to the customer site. I can also see, of course, the detail of the information on the unit that the customer is asking service for. It is this equipment here that I can tap on, and I can, of course, review now information related to this unit. I can see the configuration and other components of this equipment that we have in the system. This item was installed back in April of 2019. There are no warranty active, and there is no contract that is active with this equipment. I can see that in the bottom, there are 39 incidents that we've reported in the past and other services that we've completed for this customer. Now I can go ahead and start my work. I can go ahead and clock into the job. I can also go in and change my status to say that the work is now in progress. And what that will do is, of course, update the calendar in the back office where the service manager will be able to see my work as I'm doing it in the field. One of the features of this tool here is to be able to provide a guided inspection to the technician on the work that they can do. This is a configurable inspection list that could be tied to the type of service. In this case, it's service and repair. There could be other inspection lists for inspection, for installation, for training, and things like that. In this case, because it is a fix and repair transaction, it makes sense for me to ask the technician if there's any damage that I could observe from the equipment. And if there is damage, did I fix it? So the adjusted option there will allow me to do that. And then, of course, the main question was, is there a leak? The question could be fail or pass. It could be yes or no. And in this case, we have found a leak that the customer is describing. And then, of course, now I could go ahead and fix it. And once I fix that, I can now say that the adjustment passed now and that the leak has stopped. I can continue to add additional and look at the additional inspection questions, again, whether yes or no, pass or fail, or even a measured value. So if you have a meter or a device that measures, for example, load balances, and you can then specify what the expected value would be. In this case now, what I can then find is identify, of course, the value that I've found in the equipment. And if it's below the threshold there, I can see that indicated by the X mark just beside the equipment information there. And then, of course, as I now continue to adjust that value and put it back into proper levels, the system then will replace that X with the exclamation point indicating that I've worked on this. I can continue to do my inspections and then, of course, be able to even add notes as needed as I continue to do my work. This inspection list will be part of the history then that you'll be able to keep in the system for you to be able to review back, if 6 months from now you needed to review it, you can certainly do that. One of the things that the technician can also do is look at attachments. It could be documents. In this case, I could even activate the camera on my phone and then be able to identify, for example, the equipment and maybe take a picture of the equipment before, during, and after the service. And you can take as many pictures as you want to. I just took a picture of a section of my workstation here and then be able to use this now in the service. So that picture and other pictures that I'll be taking would be part of the record for this service. One of the things that I can also do now is, of course, add the labor information. How much time did I spend on the service? So I could go into the hours worked and enter the number of hours that I've entered, and you can see that the hours to bill matches the hours worked. If that was different, you can also make the changes needed, and then, of course, reflect that into the system. You can now go ahead and add additional notes. I can use my keyboard here to be able to add those notes, or even use the microphone in the app to be able to add notes to this. Performed service on the equipment. And of course, the technician could be as descriptive as needed to be able to explain the work that was done. Once that has been added to the system, it'll now be part of this work order as well. I could also add material to the equipment, so parts that I've replaced, for example. I could use a barcode scanner to be able to read a barcode, or I could enter the equipment number as well of the item that I'm using. So I can search for the number on the screen here, do a search. When it finds the equipment or the part that I needed, which I used in this this repair, it'll now be recorded. I can identify the quantity of the units that I replaced, and if I needed 2 of those units, for example, I could go ahead and save that. The system will go ahead and add that to the work order, and if that was going to be billable, it'll be charged to the customer as well. I can continue adding parts that I replaced and labor information as well as notes to it. Once I'm done, I can go ahead and even clock out of the job. And if you want to be able to track the lapse time, that'll be part of the record in the system. And then, of course, be able then to complete the entry for that. When I'm done with the work, I can go into my option in the menu at the top. I can go into the invoicing and payment. The system now will record all of the items that I've added to this work order, the labor, and also the parts that I've used. And now I can go ahead and invoice it from this screen. And then the system now will give me the option to either receive payment from the customer, either through a credit card, or I can leave it on account, and then we can now send them the invoice. I can do pay now or pay later. If I click on the signature, I can also get a signature now from the customer. And then, of course, that'll be part of the record completing this order. Once that is done, then I can now go ahead and complete the order. So we'll pay later. I can even send an email to the customer if needed. And then, of course, now I can go ahead and change the status on this work order to complete. And that'll then remove that item, that work order from my list. And I can move on to the next item in my queue. That is the mobile app and the features related to the functions that the technicians will perform in the field, and that'll now allow me to be able to go ahead and go on to the next work. All right, going back into the calendar scheduling screen now, if I just go ahead and refresh the schedule here, you'll notice then that the work order that I was working on has also been updated, and then the system will then go ahead and allow me now to go ahead and review the that work order. So if I go into the service order program now, if I go into and open up the service order screen, this will now allow me to go back and review the work order that I just was working on, be able to review the transactions there. So I can just go ahead and take a look at that work order. So that was the leak in the equipment problem that we had. I can see the gauges of what we've built so far, go into the transactions, and here I can actually see the that part that I replaced under the material tab. I can go into the labor tab and look at the information on the time that I spent and even the elapsed time, and if that was going to be posted as well in this transaction. And so that part of the record will be there as part of it. The billing could have been started. I can also go into the documents for this record, and here I can actually see the picture that I took when I was working on the equipment in the field. All right, one of the important transactions here would be to go into the transaction screen, and I can see the cost price summary. And here's where I get a quick summary of the profitability of this work order. From the price radio button, we identify the materials, the labor, and then the total of that work order. And then if I take a look at the cost radio button, it'll now see what it costed us, if there's any kind of planned labor, what the actual would be, and then the final total, and then of course the margin and the kind of percentage of profit that we're making on this work order. So some good reporting there that will allow you to be able to look at this work order and review, of course, its profitability. Within the application, I can also go into that work order now, and when I click on the SXE order inquiry, it'll take me into CloudSuite Distribution, where I can go ahead and see the information on this work order. Go ahead and click into the details. I can see now that this has been shipped, go into the line details of that, and then of course see all the details. And I think that may not have been the right order there, but it'll actually see the information on the details on the parts that were added, and of course the labor that was recorded in this transaction. All right. So one of the tools that we have as well within the application in the system here would be the reporting tools that are available to you. The application comes with built-in reporting in the application. So if you're doing service orders, for example, or rentals, or service contracts, or warranty claims, you have this reporting tool that will give you a summary of the dashboards and reports that you can have there. And under each section, when I click down and drill down into the details, I can take a look at the different reports that are available. That'll give you details on the work order analysis, margins, current versus last year, and then of course the percentage, the cost. I can see my total revenue in the service operation, the margin we're making, the margin percentage. I can see the number of work orders, those that have been closed, those that are waiting or quotes that need to be approved, and so on. Then of course I can go down into the details for the summary of that, and even take a look at the actual top customers that we're working with, top partners and details, and then go into even the labor analysis and see the work that's being done by the technicians in the field, total labor cost, number of hours worked, number of hours billed, utilization, and all the details related to labor as well as parts as well, and if we're making any kind of margin on parts that we're using in our repair operation. So again, I can drill down into a lot of these details and get more information related to the work that we're doing there. The same information, of course, is available in the other areas of the operation. So if I go back in here, I can take a look at if we're renting equipment out, then I can see the revenue for the rental operation. I can see the revenue for the preventive maintenance contracts that we have with customers and any kind of warranty claims that we may have within the system. This gives you a quick view of the service management module that is integrated with the service application. And at this time now, this completes our time today. What I'd like to do is open up the floor for questions that you may have from the audience. And Shane, if you can help me with that, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. That was great. Currently, there's no questions that have popped in. So if anyone on the line would like to type in, we are not going to open up the audio, so you do have to type in your question. Ray, I have one before, as people are typing. What's a typical next step? You only scratch the surface. You clearly, I've seen you do 2 hours on this topic. What would be a next step if someone did want to dive deeper? Is there a requirements gathering phase?
There is. Usually, Shane, what we do is we do a discovery with the customer to find out what the requirements are. Do you need rentals? In some cases, they don't have rental operations, so we can skip that part. We can then dive into the actual services that they perform for their customers, whether that be installation and assembly of equipment that you then service with preventive maintenance. What would be the preventive maintenance and how often do you do it? Is it every 30, 60, or 90 days? Do you bill them on a monthly basis? What are the types of work that you do, service and repair? What technicians do in the field? Do you carry inventory in your service vans that you also replenish and track? A lot of details in the service operation that you do. And even before that, the quoting process where you then identify what the needs are, what parts to be used. Do I need to order special parts from suppliers and vendors, or can I transfer stock from other branches if we have multiple branches that we can source from, and then how that works within the system. And then, of course, the billing, the AR, the AP, and all that. There's a lot there. So we go through a discovery phase, find out what the requirements are, and then tailor the overview to fit with what the customer is looking for.
That's great. Nice process. No questions have come through, so that means you did an awesome job, Ray. So thank you for that. I know it was short and sweet, and we asked you to do that on purpose. But again, if there's anyone on the call today that would like to dive deeper, go through that discovery requirements gathering phase, understand a little bit more about some of your service management requirements, I'd be happy to coordinate